Time Warner Cable is pleased to be an underwriting sponsor for Carolina Week.
Coming up in the February 7th edition of Carolina Week. Before this morning, many would have considered Rick Ingraham the frontrunner for student body president.
But complaints from two of his opponents about Ingraham's campaign activities could knock him from the race entirely. We'll have reactions.
In sports, the basketball team loses a key player but doesn't miss a beat.
Weathercaster John Boyer will tell us about the possibility of snow later in the week.
All that and a mysterious castle right here in Chapel Hill. Carolina Week starts right now.
From the James F. Goodman Studio in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, connecting campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
By later this evening, there could be one less name on the ballot for tomorrow's student body president election. Good evening, I'm Eddie Sykes.
And I'm Joelle Kaplan. Thanks for joining us. The Board of Elections is about to meet in 2 hours to determine whether or not to disqualify Rick Ingraham for what it calls malicious campaigning.
The board voted unanimously to hold the hearing where Ingraham will be able to answer informal complaints voiced by candidates Ian Lee and Mary Cooper. Carolina Week's Rob Gunst joins us live in the studio. Rob, with the election tomorrow, this is bad news for the Ingraham campaign regardless of the outcome of tonight's hearing.
That's right, Eddie. Frustration has been the dominant emotion in the Ingraham campaign today. I sat down with Rick earlier today, and he tells me that he thinks he did nothing wrong. The text message conversations that were released in the Daily Tar Heel earlier today from the Board of Elections, he feels that he was just mainly frustrated and very upset with some of the way that Ian Lee obtained signatures during the process to get petition period. 24 hours out from this election, we're talking about election law minutia instead of the issues that are actually important for Carolina students, Eddie.
This is definitely unprecedented, and we're definitely going to follow it closer, and we'll follow up with it tomorrow night at 10 o'clock p.m. Thanks, Rob. Well, we're actually joined right now by the chair of the Board of Elections, and that's Andrew Phillips. Andrew, thanks so much for being here.
No problem, Eddie.
Andrew, what, in your opinion, is happening right now, and what can we expect to see tonight at the hearing?
Well, as you said, at 7 p.m., the board will convene a hearing of disqualification. When Ian Lee and Mary Cooper came to the Board of Elections last week with the complaints that are outlined in the administrative decision, which have been made reference to in this program already, the board decided that those complaints were worth looking into, worth investigating further. So we voted, as you said, unanimously to hold a hearing of disqualification this evening to give the Ingraham campaign a chance to respond to those allegations.
What do you know about the allegations coming to you, the Board of Elections, from Speaker Santoro, or I should say former Speaker Santoro?
Right. Deanna Santoro, to the best of my knowledge, resigned this morning. Alex Mills, Speaker Pro Tem, has assumed the leadership responsibilities for Congress. I spoke to the Speaker last night and received an email from her this morning that she intends to file suit against the Board of Elections for what she feels is our inability to answer certain questions about election law.
Well, this is definitely something we will be following very closely. Very interesting things going on with this year's election, completely unprecedented. Andrew, thank you so much.
No problem.
Most of this comes back to specific complaints, as Andrew mentioned, from Ian Lee and Mary Cooper, who say Ingraham and his campaign manager have been abusive and vulgar towards them and their campaign staffs.
I guess there's one instance where he flicked off a member of my campaign staff because he didn't sign a petition. Words that have kind of been exchanged between staff, and just general comments that were made, when we're out in the pit trying to talk to students that were distracting and very negative towards the whole election process.
I wish that there was a way that I could have expressed this information without necessarily having to go through this formal process, but the way the rules are set up and the honor code, at the end of the day, it's about maintaining the Carolina way in every action that you do on campus, whether you are in a campaign or you're not in a campaign. And I felt like there was an inherent lack of that, so we needed to kind of stand up and say this isn't right.
So the SVP race has become quite contentious, and to recap, by the time online voting opens at midnight tonight, there could be 3 rather than 4 candidates pending the outcome of the Board of Elections hearing that starts shortly tonight. We'll have all of the election results and maybe a few more fireworks on a special edition of Carolina Week starting tomorrow night at 10.
And perhaps in an attempt to divert attention from all of the controversy, SVP candidate Brooklyn Stevens spent her final day of campaigning on horseback. Brooklyn Stevens rode into the pit today to talk to students. The four-legged campaign staffer was dressed in Carolina blue ribbons and a UNC-themed blanket. Students stopped to look at pet the animal as campaign members held up signs. Stevens rode off after only a few minutes. On past programs, we've profiled Rick Ingraham, Brooklyn Stevens, and tonight we profile the final two of the four candidates running for the top spot in student government. We'll start with Mary Cooper. Student body presidential candidate Mary Cooper was born to run for office.
I was born in Washington, D.C., actually. My father is a Democratic congressman from Nashville. He's the 5th District. So politics has been a part of my family. I grew up spending every other summer campaigning, and I had the chance actually to intern for the First Lady this past summer at the White House.
It's not just her pedigree that qualifies her for the office. Cooper has been involved with many organizations on campus and says it's helped her to understand you on a deeper level.
I've been involved in a lot of different areas on campus that aren't really necessarily connected to student government, working with these different organizations and understanding them because of my past experiences with them. That's why the Carolina voters should vote for me. Because I've been there and I'm ready to fight for you and be your advocate.
Cooper is fighting for four main goals. The big four, as she calls them, include a flat-rate taxi service, first aid training for all students, a fund to pay for students to go to conferences, and expanding CCI printing. Cooper wants to help you be more effective.
This is, to me, one of the highest forms of service and the way that I can help you do your job, whatever your job may be, whether it's on the athletic fields, in the classroom, in an art studio, out serving our community. I want to help you do that job in a better and more efficient way.
Cooper wants to do many things for you, such as maintaining financial aid to keep you out of debt in the face of rising tuition. She says she owes a debt to Carolina, too, but it's not a financial one, and she hopes you'll elect her so she can repay it.
Carolina has given me so much, and I am ready to give back to it.
To see the platforms of all four candidates, go to our website, carolinaweek.org. Now, the final candidate for student body president is Ian Lee. Reporter Kathleen Whitty tells us about his rapid rise to become a real contender.
Meet Ian Lee, the junior business and political science major, decided to run for student body president just 3 short months ago. But it's taken him only 3 months to become a frontrunner in the race. He has no doubt that his love for new ideas are important attributes in UNC's student leader.
It's about looking around, figuring out what's possible. Student government has the ability to tackle really big things on campus, and I think for a long time we've been afraid to do that.
Lee recently landed the Daily Tar Heels endorsement, a victory he considers to be a testament to the strength of his platform issues. As for platform points, Ian Lee has many that he considers feasible and specific. For example, we all know that parking in Chapel Hill can be a pain, but Lee wants to open up Rams Head parking deck here behind me to all students after 5 p.m. Lee also wants to give students the answers to their everyday questions with his program, Fix My Campus.
Right, so student government would respond to your everyday little concerns that you find, whether they're a broken chair in a room like the Union, to something bigger, like why don't we have a dance minor on campus?
Lee says this election season has been fun and challenging, but he looks forward to spending a little more time with his family in Cary.
And I have a 5-year-old little brother that kind of likes to go through the football or kind of go, play around a little bit, and haven't been able to kind of go home and see him.
But with voting day just a few short hours away, Lee will soon know just how much free time he'll have next year. In Chapel Hill, I'm Kathleen Whitty, Carolina Week.
Of course, Lee is hoping he won't have that much free time. We'll all know at about 10:30 tomorrow night. After much controversy, the referendum to renovate the student union will appear on Tuesday's ballot. The referendum almost didn't make the ballot after complaints that supporters obtained some signatures illegally. The referendum would fund renovations to the bottom floor of the student union, adding more meeting rooms and rehearsal spaces, as well as keeping the building open 24 hours. Students would have to pay an additional $16 every year for the next 30 years to fund the project. Students can vote for or against the referendum in tomorrow's election. Having roommates is a part of college life.
But how many roommates you have could get you kicked out of your house. We'll explain coming up.
Escucha Smokey antes de tratar.
Solo tú. No juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego.
hermoso bosque es lo que deseas. No juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego.
Solo tú puedes prevenir los fuegos forestales.
¡Fuego!
Los peces del lago Crabtree y Briar Creek contienen productos químicos llamados PCB que son muy peligrosos para tu salud. Por eso, cada vez que pesques, siempre devuelve los peces al lago. No te olvides. Para más aclaración, llama a la línea de información y referencia al siguiente número o visita la siguiente página. Gracias.
The town of Chapel Hill is enforcing an ordinance that limits the number of roommates allowed in an individual home. Liz McLaughlin says it could cause some problems for students.
Colleen Young is like many students at UNC. She lives off campus with 7 roommates to help keep rent affordable.
Living off campus, a lot of times the housing isn't necessarily very cheap, but the fact that you can live with your friends and pack a lot of people into a small amount of space, it really helps to lower the rent and the cost of living.
Chapel Hill actually prohibits this common living arrangement.
There's a limit of no more than 4 unrelated people can live in a house.
The occupancy ordinance is enforced mainly through complaints. The town's enforcement supervisor said the most common complaints are about noise, parking, and trash disposal. The best way to avoid complaints is to simply be a good neighbor, because occupancy violations could eventually lead to a court-forced eviction.
The owners are given 30 days to come into compliance. If they don't come into compliance in that 30 days, then their options are to appeal the decision that the town made.
Buildings like fraternity and sorority houses are excluded from the ordinance. They're zoned as rooming houses and have their own set of rules and regulations. Colleen was unaware of the ordinance before moving into her current home. She says that many of her friends are in the same situation.
Almost all of my friends live in houses with more than 4 people, 3 other roommates. I can't actually think of anyone that I know who lives off campus that would not be affected by it.
Keep the ordinance in mind before signing your lease for next year. In Chapel Hill, I'm Liz McLaughlin, Carolina Week.
If you're worried about whether your living arrangements could get you into hot water, visit our website, carolinaweek.org, to read the relevant sections of the code.
A run-in with the police could now cost you more than just having to sit for a mugshot and fingerprints. Starting this month, North Carolina police are collecting DNA samples from cheek swabs from people charged with felonies. Before now, DNA samples were collected only from convicted felons. This follows a state law passed this year by the General Assembly. The state will share the DNA profiles with the FBI, but will destroy them if the charges are dismissed.
Are there other planets that could sustain human life elsewhere in the galaxy? NASA says astronomers have identified more than 1,200 possible planets orbiting other stars. 54 of the possible planets are in the so-called habitable zone of stars, where temperatures should be moderate enough for liquid water. These new discoveries have left astronomers optimistic that they'll eventually find Earth-like planets and maybe other life forms. Well, to be honest, it's extremely warm out there for February. I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's really hard to tell what's going on these days, but weathercaster John Boyer joins us live in the studio. John, what can we expect?
Oh, joy.
You know, washing your clothes in cold water instead of hot uses 90% less energy.
I know. Welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm John Boyer, and if you spent any time outside today, it was feeling warm at times, and the clouds in the sky really didn't have much to do with how warm the temperatures were getting. The winds were from the south, bringing the warm air from the south, so despite the cloudiness, it still felt kind of nice out there, and those clouds are a sign of what's to come. We could be seeing some rain showers going through the overnight hours. Snow is a possibility going into late Wednesday and Thursday, and I'll break down the possibilities in a second. But past that, we could be seeing a warm-up for the weekend. So here on the satellite picture, this is basically telling you what you already know. It's cloudy outside, and these clouds extend all the way up and down the eastern seaboard. But we had a high today of 56, which was above average, as Eddie pointed out before the break. Although right now, those temperatures have backed off already down to the 50-degree mark. When we take a little closer look at the radar, we see that just to look at it, you'd think that there would be some rain falling outside in Chapel Hill right now, but the air beneath these echoes is so dry that the rain isn't really making it all the way to the surface. We'll have to wait for the atmosphere to moisten up a little more before we can catch some of this activity in South Carolina, and then going into the hours right before sunrise, we could be seeing some of this activity here in Georgia swing on through. But as we go through the overnight hours, this low is our primary concern, so we're just looking at mostly cloudy skies, a low temperature around 35 with some southwesterly winds around 5 to 10 miles an hour. But that quickly changes. We say goodbye to that system, so tomorrow's looking like a mostly sunny day. Could see some morning clouds. Temperatures slightly cooler than today, but still seasonable, a high of 51 and some westerly winds around 8 to 12 miles an hour. Here's tomorrow's surface map showing that our system from today is well off of New England and high pressure is taking control. Going into Wednesday now, here's the slide. For Wednesday, you see that high pressure is still the dominant weather feature, but our next system that we're watching out here over Texas is sort of getting its act together, and that is what we're talking about when we say we could see a little bit of rain or snow going into Thursday. But the problem is that this could track too far to the south, and as a result, we would see only very, very light accumulations. It's also going to be kind of starved for moisture because all of this air right through here is very, very dry. Sort of the same problem we're having today, preventing that rain from coming in off the coast at this moment. So breaking it down, we're talking about the late hours of Wednesday into Thursday morning with some light rain or snow possibility and only limited amounts. But Suzanne will be back here on Wednesday to break down the updated forecast for you. So that could impact one event I know of going on Wednesday evening, basketball, Carolina at Duke, the big game, of course. Snow is also a possibility at this point in time. We're not getting into specifics just yet, but we can guarantee you mostly cloudy skies with temperatures right around 40 degrees. So here are the next 7 days. You see we're starting out rather nice, sunny on Tuesday and Wednesday with temperatures right about our seasonal average. Then clouding up going into Wednesday night for Thursday morning. Could see a little bit of snow. We're not exactly sure how much yet. And then our temperatures take a nice rebound going into the weekend. Look at Saturday, 52 degrees, 56 perhaps by Sunday. We could be talking 60s next week. That's what some of the long-term computer models are thinking.
Wow, John, it's just, it's North Carolina, man. There's nothing more you can say about this weather.
Looking forward to the warm-up.
If you don't like it, just wait a few days.
Great. Thanks, John.
Thanks so much, John. Each year a ton of people watch the Super Bowl, and some people pay as much attention to the ads as to the game. Here are the top 5 ads ranked by a panel of viewers for USA Today. Number 5 was Love Hurts by Pepsi Max. Number 4, Doritos with Healing Chips. In third place came the pint-sized Darth Vader for Volkswagen. Bud Light was the runner-up with Dog Sitter. And here's the top-ranked advertisement of Super Bowl 45.
Hey, come on. You want a little chicken? You want a Dorito? Are you hungry? I want to get a Dorito.
Babe, don't hurt my dog.
Come on, get a tip. Come on, get a tip. Get a tip. Come on. Where we go?
Well, that is a pretty funny one.
That was hilarious.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, sportscaster Andy Reeves joins us live in the studio. Andy, I know you were watching the Super Bowl last night.
But that was far from the only big sporting event going on yesterday.
You guys are absolutely right. The Super Bowl was a lot of fun, but Carolina fans may have had even more fun watching those boys play basketball yesterday. And coming up after the break, despite some bad news, the basketball heels are still running strong.
Everyone has friends. There's online friends, friends to go out with on a Saturday night, friends to hang out with and do nothing, friends who show up on moving day. And then there are the friends who'll be there if someone is dealing with a mental illness. Are you one of those friends?
These things we count on every day started as ideas. Ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome to Carolina Week Sports. I'm Andy Reeves. The men's basketball team is playing its best basketball yet after a roller coaster of a weekend. On Friday, junior point guard Larry Drew suddenly announced he was leaving the program only 48 hours before the team took on Florida State. But the fans quickly forgot the crisis. Early on, look at this pass from Kendall Marshall to John Henson. He knocks down the jumper. Can't defend that. Then Harrison Barnes, doing what he does, gets to the basket and the foul. He led the Heels with 17 points. Dexter Strickland also got it going as he knocks down this three. The Heels were up 9 at the half, giving the fans a lot to cheer about. Second half only got better. Marshall throws it up to guess who? John Henson. And later it's Marshall again, finding Tyler Zeller in the lane. Noticing a trend here, Marshall had 16 assists as the Heels win 89-69. So, as was the case against the Seminoles, UNC is playing a man down for the rest of the season. Larry Drew's departure means other guys have to take up the slack. Rachel Nash joins us live in the studio. Rachel, this was a pretty big shocker.
Andy, as we found out, Drew didn't break the news himself. His father, Larry Drew Sr., told Coach Williams over the phone Friday morning.
Well, did any of the players see this coming?
No, they didn't. Drew's own roommate, Justin Watts, had no idea Drew was even thinking about transferring.
From out of the blue to Roy Williams, the news that Larry Drew was transferring.
You know, it hurts anyway, bottom line.
The team felt Drew's play improved in the 4 games following Marshall's move to starting point guard against Clemson.
We were starting to play well. I think we were both starting to find our niche, and he was playing his best basketball of the year. I was coming around.
Drew posted a 19-4 assist-to-turnover ratio after he was moved to backup point guard. But even without Drew, the Heels took down Florida State Sunday, scoring 89 points, the most allowed by the Seminoles this season. And it was Marshall who set the offensive pace.
His game is geared toward when someone's guarding him, he can create.
Marshall served up 16 assists, setting a UNC freshman record.
It's one of those things that he creates a lot of opportunities for us and makes it a lot easier on us. He can create something where he throws me the ball in the basket. I can do that every day.
Marshall will have to continue to play extended minutes with only shooting guard Dexter Strickland as a backup. But Williams is confident his new starting point guard will respond well to the challenges that lie ahead.
You know, we can all bring out all those cliches, and one comes to mind to me is tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Now, all the players we've talked to say they haven't spoken to Drew since Thursday night.
Well, Rachel, the Heels have no backup point guard. How will they fill that void?
Dexter Strickland has been here before. He played point some last season, but there will certainly be a lot of pressure on Strickland and Marshall when they face number 5 Duke on Wednesday.
Absolutely. That's Rachel Nash live in the studio. Thanks. The wrestling team is back to 500 after a pair of wins this weekend. On Friday, the Heels faced off against NC State. Zach Bennett led the charge with this pin. Nice work there. Corey Mock also got a pin. There you see him pulling his man to the mat. He was fired up as they cruise over NC State 24-12. Coach Mock and the Heels then took on Edinboro Saturday. UNC recorded 2 pins and 2 major decisions, including a dominant effort from Thomas Ferguson. He scored 11 points in the first period alone. The Heels won the match 29-17. They wrestle again Saturday against Nebraska in Chapel Hill. The UNC swimming and diving teams are gearing up for the ACC championships after huge victories over Duke. Here's Tyler Smith with the 100-yard breaststroke. He came in first in 2 events. Check out Sarah List on the backstroke. She was one of 13 Heels to swim career best times. The ACC championships begin with men's diving February 16th in Atlanta. The women's tennis team remains undefeated after beating its second top 15 opponent in as many matches. Saturday's match against Notre Dame was frustrating for UNC's top seeds. There you see Shainan Featherson not too happy as she drops her match there, but it gave the lower-seeded ladies a chance to shine. Gina Suarez Malaguti and the other Heels gutted out 4 3-set wins as Carolina gets the victory 5-2. Ladies play again against Florida in Chapel Hill Saturday. The UNC gymnastics team is a bit disappointed, even though the ladies outperformed ACC foe Maryland in 3 of 4 events Saturday night. Morgan Evans got Carolina off to a running start in the vault competition. This vault helped Evans win her 4th consecutive all-around title. The momentum carried into the uneven bars, where Terry Diamond made her first appearance since injuring her back 2 seasons ago. And the Tar Heels struggled, but the Tar Heels struggled on the balance beam. Multiple falls like this one cost the team the lead before the last event, and even Kristen Alloy's great floor performance wasn't enough to overcome the deficit. Now, guys, tonight the women's basketball team has a big showdown with undefeated and 5th-ranked Duke at Carmichael, so I hope Tar Heel fans will get out there and support those ladies.
Coupled with the game on Wednesday night, we have a lot of Carlisle Cup points on the line.
Definitely makes beating Duke a lot sweeter when you win extra points for it.
Yes, it does.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Well, coming up after the break, we've all seen it.
But how many of us know anything about it?
The legends, the rumors, and the history of the Gimghoul Castle. These papers lay it all on the table. I'm Preston Stanley. That story's coming up.
If you have a story idea, call Carolina Week at 919-843-8292 or email us at carolinaweek@unc.edu. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina 27599. Be sure to check out Carolina Week and Carolina Connection online at carolinaweek.org.
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people. Connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Chapel Hill is known for its beautiful campus. The Old Well and championship basketball are just part of its rich history.
But not many know the history of the Gimghoul Castle. Preston Stanley searches for the truth behind the legend.
The rumors about the Gimghoul Castle are a dime a dozen.
Is that what's got to do with the secret society group?
Nothing. You ever heard about it?
No, sir.
But the facts aren't so easy to find. Despite private property signs like these posted around the castle, Orange County records indicate that only the castle is considered private property. The state has owned the land since 1975. So we headed out to the castle to find the truth. No one answered the door, but eventually we did catch up with the caretaker's pet sitter, who confirmed some old myths.
An apartment in this part, and then that is like the hall where the Gimghoul Society has their meetings and parties.
The pet sitter said she has yet to see a ghost, but often sees visitors.
People come up and they ask about it, about the legend, and there's the rock over there with the blood stain.
Now, they wouldn't let us in the castle, but they couldn't keep us off this rock where the legend started. The rock tombstone and legend of a death duel are the only common denominators among many stories listed online. Wilson Library houses a list of the Gimghoul Society members, but that's a classified document. As far as the land goes, neither the local nor state officials returned our phone calls. So for now, the caretakers, secret society members, and the dogs are the only ones who know the whole truth. In Chapel Hill, I'm Preston Stanley, Carolina Week.
Such an interesting story. It's definitely a mystery to all of us.
Yeah, I know nothing about that, but thanks to Preston for teaching us a little bit.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for watching. Good night.